What happens when royal entitlement collides with unapologetic American sarcasm? What really goes down when Prince Harry tries to school one of America's most brutal comedians on politics only to get a reality check he never saw coming? Last night on Real Time with Bill Maher, the Duke of Sussex walked into what can only be described as a televised ambush one that ended not with applause, but with security escorting him off set. Before we break down this jaw-dropping exchange, make sure to hit subscribe and drop your thoughts in the comments, because when royal privilege crashes headfirst into Maher's trademark truth bombs, somebody's crown is going to fall. It all started innocently enough. Prince Harry arrived at HBO Studios in Burbank looking every bit the West Coast royal relaxed, polished, confident. Dressed in his signature California rich casual, he eased into the guest chair across from Maher, clearly expecting another softball media moment. He didn't know Maher came loaded. From the moment the cameras rolled, you could feel it tension. The audience sensed it. Maher's opening monologue had already roasted celebrity activism, culture war, hypocrisy, and performative outrage. When he turned to Harry, it wasn't with deference, it was with blood in the water. "So Harry," Maher said, voice calm but eyes sharp, "you've been awfully vocal about American politics lately. Just curious what gives a guy born in a palace the moral authority to lecture Americans about inequality?" The audience fell quiet. The question hit like a slap, dressed in a handshake. Harry smiled, the kind of smile media training teaches you to wear under pressure. "Well, Bill," he began, "Meghan and I believe having a platform means using it to speak out. We care deeply about justice, especially for marginalized communities here in the States." Maher leaned back, grin widening. The trap had been set. "Right, but help me out here. Didn't you spend the first 30 years of your life funded by a monarchy built on colonial wealth? It's like Marie Antoinette giving TED Talks on food stamps." Laughter exploded from the crowd, sharp, nervous, delighted. Harry's jaw clenched just for a second. "I think that's unfair," he replied, voice taut. "My military service, my charity work, the trauma I've experienced, they all give me a perspective I think is worth sharing." Maher nodded slowly. "Military service? Absolutely, I respect that. But let's be real about what your service looked like. You had round-the-clock protection, curated missions, and a PR team. Meanwhile, actual U.S. veterans are sleeping in parking lots. It landed hard. So, when you talk about sacrifice," Maher continued, "are we really having the same conversation?" Harry's voice tightened. "That's a gross oversimplification. I've worked with veterans through the Invictus Games. I've been in danger. I've lost friends," Maher pounced. "The Invictus Games, sure, but how much of that is about helping veterans? And how much is about cleaning up your image? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've turned royal exile into a branded victimhood into a business." The air in the room snapped. The audience was stunned, some gasping, some laughing nervously, others riveted. Harry's media polish started to crack. "That's out of line," he said, his voice rising. "My work in mental health, conservation, veterans' welfare, those are real, they matter, and they're not PR stunts." Maher leaned forward now, voice calm but cutting. "Here's the difference. Harry, Americans don't bow. We don't have to pretend your trauma makes you immune to criticism. Yes, some of your work is good, but that doesn't mean we ignore the contradictions, like cashing in on royal drama while preaching about privacy." Harry gripped the chair tighter. The charm was gone, now replaced with barely contained frustration. "You have no idea what Meghan and I have faced. The racism, the media harassment, the institutional cruelty, and that's where we'll pick it up next." "You haven't lived through systemic oppression," Harry said, his voice tight with emotion. That was the phrase. Systemic oppression, and it landed like bait on a hook. Maher didn't hesitate. His reply came fast and merciless. "Systemic oppression," he repeated, mock incredulous. "Harry, you're worth hundreds of millions. You live in a mansion in Montecito. You've got Netflix deals, ghostwritten memoirs, and speaking gigs that pay more than most Americans earn in their entire lives. If this is oppressionware, do I sign up?" The audience erupted. Laughter and applause crackled through the studio. But Harry wasn't laughing. His face, already flushed, drained of color. His hands curled slightly in his lap. His voice, When it returned, trembled with fury barely contained. "You're trivializing real discrimination." What Meghan endured: the racism, the relentless attacks from the British press, the indifference from the palace, those are facts, not feelings. That coverage had racial undertones. It had consequences. For her, for our kids. Maher leaned forward, eyes narrowing. He smelled blood. "Look, I'm not denying some of the coverage was vile. Racist? Some of it, sure. But welcome to public life in 2024. Everybody gets dragged. Politicians, activists, comedians, royals. The difference is, when most people get shredded in the media, they don't retreat to a $14 million villa with security detail and cry oppression." The tension in the room thickened. Maher wasn't done. Not even close. He cocked his head and delivered the line that tipped the entire interview into open war. "But here's the part that really gets me. Harry, you and Meghan keep talking about being silenced, that your voices were suppressed. But here's the thing. You haven't stopped talking since 2020. He counted on his fingers. Netflix, docuseries, Oprah, podcasts, magazine covers, memoirs, more interviews. You say you've been silenced, but you've done everything except shut up." The studio reaction was swift and sharp, half laughter, half stunned silence. Harry's expression twisted with rage, his media training peeling away in real time. "Kind of thinking," he snapped, "is exactly what perpetuates the very systems we're trying to challenge. Just because we have a platform now doesn't mean the trauma vanishes. We were abandoned by the institution that was supposed to protect us." Maher's smile went cold. "Predatory. Trauma," he echoed. "Let me tell you about trauma. Trauma is a single mother working 2 jobs and still not affording insulin. Trauma is your kid getting shot in a school while Congress sends thoughts and prayers. Trauma isn't losing palace perks and writing bestsellers about it." The room fell quiet. Even the air felt still. Harry leaned forward, eyes blazing. "How dare you?" Meghan had suicidal thoughts. "Our security was stripped away. Our lives were at risk. We didn't choose to leave. We had to. Staying would have destroyed us." Mark didn't flinch. His response came with surgical calm. "You weren't forced. You left, then you sold that story for profit. I'm sorry for what Meghan went through, I truly am, but using someone's mental health as a shield to deflect every bit of criticism, that's not advocacy, Harry. That's manipulation." It landed like a gut punch. Harry surged to his feet, face red, fists clenched. "You have no right to speak about my wife. You don't know what she went through, what we went through." The studio froze. Even Maher blinked, momentarily taken aback by the sheer intensity, but only for a moment. "Sit down, Harry," he said, voice low and scathing. "You're proving my point. The second someone pushes back, you implode. That's what people see, not courage, entitlement." Harry's voice cracked. "Entitlement," he echoed in disbelief. "I've spent my life trying to use my privilege for good, and now you're calling me entitled because I won't let you insult my wife on national TV." Maher leaned back, folding his arms. "Help others," he repeated with mock concern. "Is that what we're calling it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you built an entire second career on trashing your own family and letting American corporations bankroll the drama. That's not helping. That's monetizing pain." The audience was silent now, frozen. No laughter, no gasps, just the sound of one man standing, another man seated, and the weight of a conversation that had turned into a demolition. The tension was now suffocating, so thick it felt like the air itself could snap. Harry remained on his feet, his entire frame visibly shaking, fists flexing at his sides like a man barely restraining a storm. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, shaking, and dangerous. "You know what, Bill? This is exactly why America's tearing itself apart. People like you who confuse cruelty for cleverness, who think sarcasm is insight. You sit there throwing barbs while the world burns vofering nothing but cynicism, division, and cheap applause." For the first time all night, something shifted in Maher's expression. The smug grin faded, his posture stiffened. His voice, when it came, was stripped of humor. "America falling apart. That's rich coming from a guy who ran from his own country the second things got tough. And now here you are, standing on my stage, in my country, telling me what's wrong with it? The arrogance is unreal." Harry's composure cracked. His voice came out in a flood, furious, rattled raw. Your stage? Your country. That right there, that's the problem. This performative, chest-pounding masculinity, this obsession with controlling the narrative, you can't handle being challenged by someone who's actually endured real adversity. So you hide behind sarcasm and cheap shots. That did it. The phrase toxic masculinity triggered something in Maher. He leaned forward, his voice flat and lethal. Toxic masculinity. From the guy who's made a career hiding behind his wife while she picks all the fights? You want toxic. Let's talk about using your dead mother as emotional currency to sell books. Or turning your military service into a PR shield anytime things get tough. You've monetized every trauma you've ever had and called it advocacy. It hit Harry like a series of body blows. His face twisted shock, rage, heartbreak hand when he responded. His voice cracked under the weight. Don't you dare bring my mother into this. He stepped forward. For one long, horrifying beat, it looked like he might actually lunge. Across the desk, the studio froze crew audience, even Maher tensed for impact. Maher didn't flinch. Your mother would be ashamed, he said softly, the line so cold it practically froze the air. She gave her life to service, to real people, not curated documentaries and brand deals. You didn't honor her legacy, you sold it. Silence, the kind that crushes. You could hear the cameras humming. Harry's face had gone pale. He looked like someone who had just watched a part of himself shatter in public. When he spoke again, it was a whisper soaked in rage. Get me out of here. I'm done. He turned toward the exit, but Maher wasn't finished. Not yet. Wait up, Prince, Maher called after him, voice venomous. Before you storm off like the petulant brat you've proven to be, let me ask you one last thing. Harry froze mid-stride, his back to the audience. Shoulders tensed. If the royal family is so evil, so racist, so irredeemable, why haven't you renounced your titles? Why are you still the Duke of Sussex? Why are your kids still a prince and princess? If it's all so corrupt, why are you still cashing in? A trap set and sprung. Harry slowly turned back, his face contorted with fury. But behind it, something else flickered. Exposure. He'd been cornered. His voice, it came, was heavy, shaking. Because those titles give us the platform to continue our work. They allow us to fight for change from within the system. Maher laughed, loud and sharp. From within, you moved to California, Harry. You walked away. You're not in the system, you're exploiting it. Let's be honest, you keep the titles. Because they sell, they're your brand. Without them, you're just another rich guy with an Instagrammable sob story and a podcast no one asked for. That broke something. Harry's hand slammed down on Maher's desk so hard the coffee mug jumped, spilling across the polished wood. The impact echoed through the silent studio like a gavel. Harry's voice trembled with fury as he stood over Maher's desk, jaw clenched. You have no idea what you're talking about. Those titles, they're part of who I am, part of my children's heritage. We can't just erase our history because people like you refuse to understand the complexity of our situation. The studio gasped at the violence in his tone, at the trembling hand that had just slammed the desk. Maher's eyes widened surprise. Then something darker. Delight. There it is, he said with a grin. The real Harry. You don't want to erase your history, you want to rewrite it. You want to be royal when it benefits you, and a victim when it doesn't. Harry's chest was heaving now, his composure eroding with every breath. You're twisting everything I say. This is exactly the kind of toxic environment we fled. Constant attacks, deliberate misrepresentation, zero empathy. Maher didn't blink. He smelled blood. Toxic environment, he snapped. Harry, you turned toxic the second someone challenged your narrative. You've spent this entire segment proving every criticism about you. You're entitled, and you weaponize your family's pain to avoid responsibility. Harry surged forward again, voice now a mixture of desperation and rage. Accountability. What about yours? You sit behind that desk night after night, tearing people down. You profit off division while pretending you're above it. Maher leaned back, his tone mock thoughtful. You know what? You're right, I do tear people down. But here's the difference. I'm honest about it. I don't pretend I'm saving the world while cashing checks off family trauma. I don't hide behind dead relatives or mental health soundbites to justify my behavior. I own it." The brutal candor stunned the studio. Even Harry fell silent for a moment, seething. Then he struck. "You want honesty? Fine. You're a bitter, lonely man who's never built anything. You've spent decades sneering at people who tried to make a difference because you're terrified of being irrelevant. You only matter because you're willing to say the things decent people won't." Silence. Thick, stunned. Even Maher faltered for half a beat. But when he struck back, it was with precision. "Bitter. Lonely, maybe, but I didn't abandon my family and then spend years monetizing it. I didn't turn personal drama into a billion-dollar brand. At least I kept my private life private." Harry's voice rose into a near shout. "That's it. I'm done. This is why real conversation is dead in this country. Because people like you turn everything into personal attacks. No depth, no empathy, just cruelty wrapped in a punchline." He turned toward the edge of the stage, clearly preparing to leave, but Maher's voice followed like a knife in the dark. "Run away, Harry. That's what you do best. Run from your family. Run from accountability. Run from any space where you can't control the narrative. But you can't outrun the truth. You're not a victim. You're a privileged man-child who melts down the moment someone tells him no." Harry froze, slowly turned his face a portrait of wrath. "You want to see me run? Fine, but don't mistake it for weakness. I came here expecting a conversation. What I got was a playground bully who takes pleasure in humiliation." He strode to the exit, but his final words cut sharper than anything before. "You know what, Bill? History will remember my mother as a woman who tried to change the world. It'll remember me for trying to carry that work forward. You'll be remembered as a cynical sideshowist, another bitter man who made a living off tearing others down." Maher didn't hesitate. "History will remember you as the prince who torched his legacy because he couldn't handle playing second fiddle. Now get off my stage before security makes it official." Harry stopped mid-stride, turned one last time, in a moment that would be clipped and shared across every corner of the internet. He pointed directly at Maher and shouted, "You're everything that's wrong with American media." With that, he stormed off. The studio fell into shocked silence. One producer approached, trying to de-escalate, only for Harry to shove his hand away. "Don't touch me," he snapped. This whole thing was a setup. The slam of the backstage door echoed like a gunshot. Maher sat in silence for a moment, then slowly turned to the camera, his trademark smirk returning. "Ladies and gentlemen, Prince Harry proving once again that you can take the prince out of the palace, but not the palace out of the prince." The audience erupted applause, laughter, stunned murmurs as the show cut to commercial. The moment was already becoming legend. The Knight Royal entitlement collided with American directness, and nobody walked away clean.